Hey everybody, welcome back to Cityscape Brewing. I'm Dennis Fields. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to be reviewing the last 4 brew days that I've had, and we're going to talk about, critical things, how I feel about them, things that I would change, things that I wouldn't change. I'm my biggest critic, and so I'll go through and tell you my honest opinion of how I did on my last 4 beers and lessons I learned and things I would probably do different. So grab a beer, hit that like and subscribe button, and stay tuned. All right, so we're going to start from right to left, or in your case, left to right. I'm going to start with this pale ale, and I call it Big Yellow Taxi. This is a mostly 2-row beer. It's a clean ale. It's a little hot in my garage, but you can kind of tell the color is crystal clear, good head retention. I've had this poured for a little bit and I already tried a little sip of it. I was cheating. And then it's got a little bit of Crystal 40, some carapils, and some acidulated malt in it. I have 2 rounds of hopping, mostly at the end. I did have some sterling hop additions at the very beginning for a 60-minute boil, about a half an ounce, and then I just had some 5-minute additions of Cascade and Centennial hops at 5 minutes, and then I dry hopped it with that as well. The big kicker for this one is I added orange zest in the secondary. And so if you haven't watched my video on how to add things to a secondary like orange zest, go ahead and watch that video. I'll have it linked below. But in this one, that really adds, that's the whole beer. It's like an orange zest beer. It's really good, kind of clean, pale ale. And when you smell it, you don't get as much of the hop character, but you can smell the orange. And so go ahead and give you a little sample of this guy. And, I think the hops kind of get hidden in this one. It's not an overly bitter beer at all. But you can definitely taste the orange in it, and that's kind of what I was going for with this one. I've done a lot of different pale ales, some bitter, some not so bitter, and I didn't want this to be overly hoppy. I don't know that I can really pick out the dry hopping all that much, even in the aroma or in the flavor all that much, so maybe that was kind of a waste. Maybe a little bit in the aroma, but mostly orange. It's what I'm getting in this, and that's kind of what I wanted, because I wanted it to be kind of like almost like my version of a Blue Moon or something like that. It's not the same as Blue Moon. I wasn't trying to clone a Blue Moon, but having that kind of orangey taste at the end really does something for that beer. So that's the first one. I probably in the future, I probably wouldn't change a whole lot to this one. The pale ale, or it's kind of almost more of a blonde recipe, was pretty good. I'd probably add maybe a little bit more bittering hops, maybe a little bit more hops at the end of the boil rather than dry hopping it. But other than that, this is a pretty solid beer. I'm very happy with it. Turned out clarity-wise very, very nice. The second beer that I want to go review tonight is the latest one that I made on my channel. You can take a look at that video. This is the Lemonade Stand, is what I'm calling this one. This is a lemon shandy. As you can tell, it is a cloudier appearance on purpose. This is made with about 50% wheat, white wheat and red wheat. It's got 4.7 pounds of Pilsner, 3 pounds of white wheat, and 1.75 pounds of red wheat. And then I used rice hulls, of course, in that grain bill so I didn't get a stuck sparge. I only added crystal hops at 60 minutes, and then I used a crystallized lemon in the secondary. I did use a wheat yeast for this one, Safe Ale WB06, and I'll give you my honest review of what I would change about this one after we do the tasting. So when I smell it, I definitely can smell the lemon flavor. In this one, I used the crystallized lemon, no lemon zest or lemon juice or anything like that. And when you taste it, it's like the beginning half is all wheat beer. So you get the wheat beer flavor, that you can taste the kind of clove banana flavor of the yeast, and then you get the lemonade in the back end. And it really complements each other really well. But what I will say is if I did this one again, I probably would do it with just a clean ale yeast like a US-05 or a White Labs 001. I like the wheat flavor of this one, but it's more for a wheat beer like a Hefeweizen rather than the lemon shandy. And although I could drink this thing all day, I think most people would probably prefer a cleaner yeast. If you're trying to replicate something like a Leinenkugel Summer Shandy or some other shandy beer that's a commercial beer, they're not going to probably use a wheat yeast, or they're going to use like a more of American wheat where they don't have those flavors with the yeast in it. I love this beer. I've been drinking it for a little over a week now, and it's fantastic. But I think I'm going to try this one again, and I'm going to do it with a clean ale yeast next time, just because I think that is just going to let the crystallized lemon really shine through on this beer, which is what it's supposed to do. I'm also probably going to add a few extra grams of the crystallized lemon. I added 14 or 15 grams or something like that to this one. I'm probably going to bump that up to about 20. And the reason I say that is because as this sits in a kegger bottle, it'll kind of drop out as it gets cold a little bit. And although you can taste the lemonade-ish flavor at the end, I want it to be very prominent. I want it to be really up in your face. And I'll kind of learn a little bit as I go and add that. This is my first time using crystallized lemon, but this is going to be a fantastic beer all summer, no matter what yeast you use. So if you prefer using wheat yeasts and you like the Hefeweizen, clove banana flavors that you get with that style, it complements the lemon just fine. So you could use either one. But being critical, I think the recipe itself was fantastic and spot on. I think adding a little bit more crystallized lemon in the recipe and then adding a clean ale yeast is what I would change about this one. But I'm going to drink it anyway. Number 3 on this list is the extract beer that I brewed, the Chinook IPA. And so this one was an extract kit. It's a little bit harder to do some of the things that you want with an extract. It turned out really, really nice for an extract kit. And again, a lot of folks may be still on that, but very crystal clear, very good color to it, holds good head retention. Again, this one's been sitting there for a little bit, but man, it's still got a good layer of head on there, and it holds to the glass really well. This one's a couple of weeks older, so it's I probably got about a third of a keg left of this one or so, and the dry hop aroma at least is pretty much gone. It was there a little bit at the beginning, but it's also, I think with extracts, it kind of doesn't hold on to that dry hopping as much, and that's just my opinion. Others probably make great extracts where it holds on to that aroma. In this case, I just don't think this one holds on to it really well. But then again, beer over time, that's just going to happen. And so we'll go on with this one. This one has a really good flavor right off the bat. I love the Chinook hops in this one. It's probably one of my favorite extract kits that I did when I first got started brewing, and that's probably why I picked that one for the video on how to do extract kits, which you can check out in the link description. This to me, after brewing all grain for quite a while now, I can kind of pick out that it has that extracty flavor to it. And although it turned out really nice, I still think that you get a little bit more control with your mash temperatures and where you want to go with things when you're doing all grain. It's also just a little fresher tasting. I think, I used this kit in particular had both dry malt extract and liquid malt extract. And I feel like I can kind of taste that liquid malt extract syrupy flavor in this a little bit. And not that that's all that bad, it's just I think that using all grain brew process will let you kind of hone in exactly the crisp or malty flavor that you're going for, and you don't get to quite choose that when you have an extract kit because you're using a liquid malt and a dry malt that's already done, and so you're not that's created in the mash process. But I feel like this one's got a little bit more of a malty flavor than I would have gone for if I could have done this all grain. So still very good beer. I've been drinking it. It's fantastic, but for an extract kit, I think if you were to brew the same recipe all grain, it would be better. Last but not least is the mango sour. This one also has a lot of wheat in it. on purpose. So I use over 50% wheat. In my sours, I generally do 7.5 pounds of white wheat, and then I'll do 5.5 pounds of Pilsner, and that's it. And then sometimes I'll add hops, and sometimes I won't. In this case, I did not for this one, but I added 6 pounds of mangoes, and you can check that out in the video that I did about adding fruits and other adjuncts to your secondary. This one, again, is that hazier appearance because of the white wheat. We're gonna go dive right into this one. Again, no hops, but it's got 6 pounds of frozen mangoes that I added to the secondary. So smell-wise, it really doesn't have a whole lot of mango aroma either. You can pick it out a little bit, but you can tell it's a sour beer just from the aroma. But going into this one, man, it's fantastic. This one's super refreshing. So you get a really clean, sour taste to this when you first hit it, and then you get that mango all in the back end, and it is fantastic. I think I would even dry hop this a little bit, or even add hops, late hop additions in this boil next time I do this. Citra or something else to give it just a little bit of a hop character. But for those who want the hop character. And this one is fantastic on its own. I actually had a birthday party for my son over the weekend, and this thing crushed it with just about everybody. The orange and lemonade ones as well. But I got probably the most feedback from people who tasted this one saying, wow. But these are also people who may not enjoy craft beers as much. Maybe they're, just a light beer drinker, or they like ciders and wine. And so this one is gonna attract those type of people a little bit more than a real hoppy pale ale or even a IPA or something like that. And so I always try to keep a sour on tap just for, folks that may not be into craft beers. And this one is fantastic. I keep most of my sour recipes the exact same. Check them out. I've got a ton of different sour brew days on my website and on my channel, and go ahead and check those out. If you haven't done a sour before, it was one of those things. It was a learning curve for me. I try to spell it out as much as I can in my brew day videos to make it as easy as possible. But man, once you brew one of these, you're gonna keep brewing them, because you keep that same recipe, and then you can just do so much with it in the back end, adding cranberries and ginger at certain times of the year when cranberries are in season, adding mangoes or raspberries or cherries or blackberries, you name it, and they're all so different at the end of the day, even though the recipe and the process is almost identical. And so this one is really good. One thing I did a little bit different with this one that I didn't talk about was I kind of rushed this a little bit, and I only actually kept it in the secondary for 5 days. I usually keep fruit in there for 7 days. And this one in particular, I was trying in a hurry to get this done before my son's party, so some adults could enjoy some beverages at the party as well. And so I pulled the fruit off actually 2 days earlier than I normally would. So it's still got a really good mango flavor, but it actually could be a little bit more if I would have left it for the next couple of days. And so very happy with how it turned out, but it could even have a little bit more mango flavor if I would have left it for those 7 days. So other than that, that's probably next time I will leave it for the 7 days unless I have a rush to get this thing done like I did this time. But other than that, I probably wouldn't change a thing. So those are my honest reviews. All of them have something that I might tweak a little bit the next time, or something that I would do differently. But that's part of brewing. You're gonna brew a beer that you really love, and you're gonna brew it a lot of times. But most of the time, I change just a little bit every single time I brew, just to experiment. Whether it's a different yeast, maybe it's adding different hops, maybe it's adding them at different times, maybe it's adding stuff in the secondary, and it just makes you become a better brewer over time. And so I rarely brew the same beer over and over and over. There are times I do, because when you perfect a recipe and it's really good, just stick to that recipe. It's awesome. But a lot of times when I have a really decent beer, I'll just change a little something. And sometimes I won't like it as much, but that's what your notes are for. I keep a whole binder, as you can tell, full of notes of stuff that I've done on past breweries or brew days. So all I know is I can go back and look, did I like what I did last time? Did I not like what I did last time? And then I can change those things up. And so being your own worst critic sometimes is helpful, because you can say, hey, I did that first beer really good. Second time I changed it, I used different yeast, or I used something different, And you know what, not so great. But keeping these notes, the next time you want to go do that same beer, look back, change something, and that's just going to help you become a better brewer. So with that, hope you liked the video. Check out the other videos that I did on these brew days, and you'll be able to find those in the link description below. As always, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Helps my channel out tremendously. And with that, happy brewing, and cheers.